Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. How was your 4th of July, Chris?
I didn't watch fireworks.
You didn't watch fireworks?
At all. No. I was a tired dad, and when you have two boys at, 1.5 and almost 2, their bedtimes, all that stuff, we debated hardcore whether to put earphones on or headphones on them, the ear protection and sit out. But we sent Nellie for a sleepover with her cousins. She went and did fireworks and had a blast, but mom and dad were tired this year. What about you? Did you get out on a boat or anything like that? In context, we were at family camp all week.
Yep.
So we were outside in the heat. I was in a basketball tournament. Yes, these legs still work somehow. Who knows? I won 3 games, lost 2, so I have a better record on the road to the championship than LeBron James. Let's just all be honest.
Nice.
And it was really fun.
Basically, you're a better basketball player than LeBron.
I mean, at this point, I'm younger than he is, so I still got more in the tank. I got more in the tank.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys haven't gone head to head, so it's not proven that he's better than you.
I do believe I could survive in today's modern day NBA because the ability to draw fouls is effortless. You can flail your arms, you can be hit in the jaw without contact and fall back to the ground and peek out of your spread your fingers when your hands over your eyes and peek and make sure the refs see you. You can stamp, have you ever seen one of your toddlers do a tantrum and they're face down and they're kind of kicking? That works really well because then you're like, oh, did they draw blood? Technical. No, I can't stand it. I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s with, Jordan, Kobe, McGrady, some of these guys that it
was a much more physical game back then. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, we actually went up to Duluth and had our own family camp, as in we camped in our pop-up camper.
Nice.
So we got to watch fireworks over the lift bridge on the 4th, and then the next night, our campground that we were staying at actually had a fireworks show of their own. And it was actually almost just as good as the fireworks in downtown Duluth. So, no, it was really good. And then we also, during the day on the 5th, we went to the Duluth Air Show. We got to see the Blue Angels and the F-35C and the F-22 Raptor, which was pretty freaking cool. So
the 22 is where it's at, man.
The 22 is amazing. It's amazing. And I'm not even like a big airplane nerd or anything, but that was really cool. We got to see the Canadian snowbirds too. Don't know if you've ever seen them fly.
Not the actual organic snowbirds, everyone.
No. But anyway, it was
they're turboprop, right?
No, they're jet.
Oh yeah, they're those like T-36s or something. Like
they're definitely
all red
looking.
Right?
All red and with a white like a bird on the bottom of them.
Yeah, that's fun.
They're pretty cool. They're pretty cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
No, I love fireworks. The best firework experience I've ever had is my brother-in-law for his wife's, I think it was 40th birthday. We went out and he just spent a good amount of change on nice real fireworks because they live in different states that allow a different state that allows that. And we were running back and forth, just launching these huge tubes.
So much fun.
And to the point where the sheriff came out eventually. It was awesome.
And he enjoyed them too, right?
I mean, he said there's some ordinance or something, and we're like, we're in the middle of the country, bro. We're somehow still inside the city limits. But
I mean, I love fireworks. Don't get me wrong. I think they're amazing, and there's nothing better than like celebrating our country and its independence. But I I just gotta wonder every time. Like I feel like when I watch a fireworks show, every time they light one off, I'm like, "There's $500. There's
Yeah.
another $500." You know,
And it
it's
ain't
just
that cheap either.
no,
It
I
gets
know it's
way
probably
more
more than that
spendy.
for the really big ones, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's I'm happy to partake in other people spending money on their fireworks, but I myself will never ever spend money on big fireworks show. Just not
Yeah.
worth it to me.
Some of those sparklers or things with the kids is fun, but
Yep,
the dollars come out quick.
they sure do. They sure do. All right, what are we talking about today, Chris?
I think we're talking about expertise, selective expertise, or general opportunist. And to really dumb that down, why don't you give me the actual topic without my interpretation?
So I want to talk about. So I feel like
Because you came up with
most.
this, so like
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
talk.
Well, I want to talk about the difference between being like a generalist hunter and being like someone who's like kind of a specialist. And I feel like the majority of hunters, at least the hunters that I know, the majority of hunters that I know do at least a couple different hunt a couple different species or a couple different animals. But I definitely know that there are people out there that would consider themselves specialists, and that doesn't preclude them from hunting anything else. But when I say a specialist, I mean someone who like their main focus is one thing. Like mule deer, for example, like someone is keyed in on hunting mule deer and that is what they focus the majority of their time on. Yeah, they might get out and maybe, do a whitetail hunt, or maybe they'll go out and hunt pheasants for a weekend or something at one point during the season, but in general, like their Super Bowl is hunting mule deer. Um I do not consider myself a specialist in just about anything. like we're very much generalists. Would you agree?
I don't know. I think I consider myself a specialist of every species.
Oh wow. Wow. That's incredible.
No, only in passion. Only in passion would I throw that out there. The enjoyment of each of those. I of all the species out there and types of hunts you can do, I'm very much on the low end. So are you, because there's just so many different. We're like not. I'm never going to be an African hunter. I don't think I'm ever going to go on an African safari. I don't know if I have a passion for that. I at this point could not care
My
less.
wallet certainly doesn't have a passion for it. So
Well, it's like not those are cool animals, but I Alaska prioritizes itself in my head before Africa ever comes near
Mhm.
a thought about hunting, right? New Zealand, and that's only because the red stag is a beautiful creature.
Yeah.
That's my probably quote unquote holy grail of a hunt, I guess, or putting that guy on the wall. But I don't know. Are you? I was a specialist, just deer hunter, the first 10 plus years of my life, or hunting life, maybe more, 15. Because the only
Yeah.
time it expanded, my hunting only expanded because of you, because of our
Well,
friendship.
well, what can
And
I
I
say?
appreciate like that's a special thing. That's a fun thing.
Yeah.
That's great. So
Well,
what about you though?
you and I approached hunting from different avenues. Like I got into hunting through the wing shooting and like upland bird hunting space and a little bit of duck hunting, and you came from the deer space and a little bit of duck hunting. So I guess our common bond there really was the duck hunting. So
Like
you kind of brought me more into the deer space.
there
Um,
are like for the majority of the country, would you say, well, I'm verbal processing this. For sure, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, probably South Dakota and North Dakota are a little interesting, but Ohio, Illinois,
Midwest.
that Midwest deer camp, like general population, deer is what is the mainstay, right? So you'd probably
Yeah.
say they're not in commitment or maybe geared out the wazoo, but in the amount of uh, times a hunter goes out in that region is probably only going to be for the majority of the population be deer
Yeah,
if they do.
there's more deer hunters than anything in the United States, just in general. And obviously you can break that down into mule deer,
But
whitetail deer,
would you say that the
blacktail.
same for like Montana, Wyoming? Are they primarily deer hunters? For sure, down in Georgia or Florida or Tennessee, like start to go down south there. Would you not say they more start to trend towards waterfowl?
Not necessarily, no.
Am I totally off?
I don't know. I'd have to look and see if there's like actual numbers on it, but I think that the white-tailed deer is the most widely hunted animal in North America, and it's not even close
Yeah, because it's
because they're
everywhere.
everywhere. They're everywhere. Um, but yeah, I don't know. So I'm definitely a generalist. I wouldn't say that I specialize in any one thing. Now there are certain things that I hunt more than others, but that doesn't necessarily make me a specialist because my mind shifts to whatever season is next, pretty
When you say
much.
specialist, are you quantifying or yeah, defining that as someone who knows the ins and outs of like every single wingtip of a duck and can call and know what duck movements are? Like they are so tuned to that, or deer hunting in that way? Or when you're saying a specialist, are you just saying that that's all they do and they don't have like top end expertise?
I get well, so I mean, maybe what you're describing is a difference between someone who's like really gung ho and someone who's kind of maybe like a weekend warrior. Whereas like maybe I don't want to quantify or define what your deer hunting was like growing up, but like you guys went up for firearm opener, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really hunt during the week,
Well, we do both weekends for sure, but
both weekends, but like you wouldn't like commit like a few days in a row.
no,
You'd
we
be
weren't
like,
in the stand all day long.
right. So you
Pack
guys
your
would be
bag lunch.
so you were like the majority of Midwestern deer hunters where
100%.
you're a weekend warrior for the
Yep.
firearm season because
100%.
no one except for your uncle bow hunted, you know. So like when I think of a
Yeah,
like a
maybe I had a
specialist,
cousin or something too.
when
My
I think of a
yeah.
specialist, like especially like a deer hunter, I'm thinking someone who is hunting from the moment the archery season opens until the moment the muzzle loader or archery season closes in the winter. You know, like their focus is whitetail, 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 whitetail. And I feel like whitetail hunters are way more devoted than almost any other kind just because season's long, you know, and it's time in the stand. You know, it's more accessible across the country. I guess I just think of when I think about people who are obsessed with a certain kind of hunting, whitetail is like what comes to the front of my mind.
I don't know. I
I mean, it's all
I think
debatable,
it's
right?
like the
But
Midwest. This is I see like farmer. I see like the guy that works a 9 to 5 and throws back like he's got a beer belly.
yep.
Uh podunk a little bit, and that is totally probably not true in many regards, but also very true in many regards.
Yeah.
So but I also think like I know guys that, and you do too, mule deer hunt, and they kind of channel like Remy Warren. Like
Hmm.
they know how to look across a hillside. They know what time of day. They're they don't need to spend exorbitant amounts of energy because they have the patterning in their head. It's intuitive to so like and then I also see like duck hunters, like waterfowl, or like there are some major snow geese or Canadian geese late season hunters that sit out in fields. And I kind of salivate on those because I haven't really gotten into that, and those seem so appealing to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, yes, I agree completely with you, but I think I don't know. It's maybe your circle of influence for the most part, and that's
Yeah.
probably
Circle of influence and then also just geographical location too. Like you're probably a lot more apt to be like a uh
like would we hunt gators if we lived in Florida? Like if our families grew up, we had like a farm out there or something. Is that would we be like the guys in the back? You know,
the bayou.
the yeah with the hovercraft, or I don't know what they are, flat bottom boats with the big fan on the back, which I
Hmm.
think is super cool, and they're just scooting across the water. Would we be hunting gators?
Maybe.
Be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get some of that gator meat.
I'd like to think so. I love gator. Tastes so good. Um yeah, but so like I want to talk about
No, this is too fun. Let's keep going.
I want to talk about, maybe the case for being a generalist and the case versus the case for being a specialist. Cuz if you're listening to this and you're either a new hunter or you're looking into potentially starting hunting, maybe you have a season under your belt, maybe you've only hunted one thing and maybe that's like enough for you, or
Chipmunks.
your your entrance into the hunting space was through a certain species and that's what you're interested in. So, and you're not interested in anything else, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But like for you and me, that's just so foreign because I love new experiences and trying new things, and I think that can in some ways be to my detriment because it doesn't ever really allow me enough time to really focus on getting super super good at one thing. um and I guess maybe the past 2 years is just been a little more difficult because as we've gotten into Western hunting, and so that starts to take up some more time, just because naturally we live in Minnesota, so there's the travel time, and you're planning to be out there for only a week or whatever. So that takes away from our time hunting in Minnesota, but also it's not like a ton of time to fully immerse yourself in the kind of hunting out there. So I guess
I think it lends itself to like success rates as well. Like we can go out and we can shoot a deer. So how much more successful do we do we need to be
right,
unless you're trail cammering for a really, the big buck.
right.
So when we're successful that way, we're like, oh, here's waterfowl opener, and they all lend itself to different times too. So we just like being outdoors. So
Hmm.
we're conservationists. Like we we enjoy that. It's rejuvenating. You unplug from the world, technology, all that stuff. And but if we weren't successful on some of those species, like duck, we've had some amazing days. Majority of them are not amazing.
Yeah,
But if we didn't have those amazing days, I don't know how much more effort we would have put into it. Because the amazing
it's
days where
true.
we like tag out or limit out,
That ignites that
um,
fire.
yeah, you're like, this was so awesome. And when it
Hmm.
is that good, it is so awesome. You
Yep.
want to figure out how, like, you think it's going to be that good next year or the next day, and it's not.
Hmm.
So that creates appreciation. But I don't know, for deer, like, it's easy to transition off of that because I'm successful. Like, it's a gift, like, almost every year.
Hmm.
Not in like a like a prideful way at all. Like, I've been gifted the family background and the deer population where we hunt, it's good.
Yeah.
Now that might be changing as things go forward. And you mentioned also like Western hunting changes that dynamic because we haven't been as successful, or we haven't been successful in Montana at all. Uh,
Montana has been the bane of our hunting
Montana's the dragon
success.
in the cave, man. It's kicking
Yeah.
our butt.
Which,
But
yeah,
Wyoming,
Wyoming's our bread and butter.
yeah, you are ours.
uh,
we just
no,
don't know. We just don't know how to like navigate the topography, and
it's just different.
we just tend to. I mean, we don't live out there either, so like going to Wyoming, it's way more wide open. It's going to lend yourself to be more successful
Well,
defaultly.
and we've hunted more in Wyoming. We've hunted more, prairie and badland type country, which I feel like we have pretty well figured for the most part.
Hmm.
Whereas in Montana, we've spent all like the majority of our time in mountainous terrain, and mountains are just different for
Hmm.
for us. We don't have a lot of experience in mountains. We do now, or more experience now, but yeah, it's just different, and so it's still a learning process, and I am confident that the more time we spend in the mountains, the more likely we are to have success.
To
um
be fair, the topography that we were introduced to during bear season at the end of spring bear this year, I feel exorbitantly. I don't even know if
More
that's a right.
comfortable.
No, not even that. Like I know I can go out and tag now.
Yeah.
That the gift of being introduced to um, that spot is unlike the other 10 spots we've hunted.
and not to say that the spots we have hunted didn't have game, because they
No,
definitely
not at
did.
all. Yeah,
Definitely
100%.
did. We weren't able to put all the pieces together to have a successful harvest in those areas.
That would also be different, though, I believe, going forward because we haven't archery hunted yet in Montana.
True.
And I think we've also walked into the bedrooms of elk and mule deer while we've been in these areas.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't seem to get them in front of us during the season.
Yeah, yeah. We're off topic,
No,
but
we're
yeah,
not. No, we're not.
kind of whatever.
You're mad
Um,
because I don't have new boots yet, but
yeah, we'll talk about that, Chris. We'll talk about about getting you some new boots. Um, let's kind of, we're going a little off script here, but I'm fine with it. Let's talk a little bit about what our hunting calendar looks like in a typical year, or what it's kind of become over the past few years. Because, like we said, we're generalists. Like we hunt many different seasons, many different species. It's evolved over the past couple of years as we're trying different western hunts, new species. But what talk to me a little bit about, or introduce kind of what season, what hunting season, or the fall at least, looks like for us.
yeah. Do you? I want to preface my answer and ask you one question first. What capacity do you think you are operating at currently with our regular hunting schedule? Like, are you operating at like 75%?
In terms
What
of
that's
like,
like takes up your time, takes up your money. Like, if you added another 15%, which is like another hunt or two, or, depending on how long it is, where it is, if it's out west or whatnot. Because my year right now, I think I've bit off too much. And
yeah.
that's how I'm answering your question. That's how I'm experiencing this question right now. So I want to know
uh
for you where you're at
Capacity
generally
wise.
regular, like in the past 6 years.
Yeah.
Have you felt like you've been at 85% and you could do a couple more and it'd be fine and it wouldn't be taxing on the marriage or wouldn't cause any issues? Or
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to answer this because my opinion is going to vary from my wife's opinion.
we're
I
not
think this.
asking your wife right
I
now?
know. I would say, like, personally, I am always open to another hunt. Right. In terms of capacity, if I'm taking my family into consideration, um,
PTO, we're talking like weekdays, all that stuff.
right. It's it's tough. It can be, it's really tough to be a generalist if you're going to try and do it all. At even just one hunt doing something, it's really hard to fit it all in. Actually, I don't think it's possible to fit it all in, because there's, you know, different things. I There's some years where I have to kind of skip a season. Um so, there might be, it might have been 2 years since I did a certain kind of hunt, and then I jump back into it the next year or whatever. But in terms of capacity, I'm just opportunistic at when the opportunity arises. I kind of jump on it. So, like, we'll get into this when we talk about the hunting calendar, but like, so I do grouse hunting. I've talked about that a little bit on the podcast before. Um, Grouse hunting is important to me. I love grouse hunting, but the only time I get to do it essentially is when I'm on the road for work, because I work in, um, on every month I go to, uh, northern parts of Minnesota and spend a couple days there at each location. And so usually my chance to grouse hunt without actually taking time for like a grouse trip is on these work trips. And after I get off work, I go out to a number of spots that I've scouted and found over the years, and I kind of just have my spots that I hit. So that's my ability to hunt grouse. Now, there have been times when I'm like, it would be really fun to have like a dedicated grouse trip, and rent a cabin, or pull the camper up to a spot and just hunt grouse for like 4 or 5 days with a group of friends. That'd be super fun. But like, that means I have to take away, more than likely take away from some other hunting season that might be going on, because a lot of these hunting seasons that we do are happening concurrently.
Yeah.
And so you have to pick and choose, especially with the longer seasons, duck season, or waterfowl season, we could hunt waterfowl from, beginning of September until middle of November or even later in some cases. But there's a lot of other things that are happening during that time. And so I pick my 1 or 2 weekends duck hunt, and then maybe a one-off morning on a weekday or something, if it lines up and works like we did last year. And so I
So
would say, yeah, I'm
are you
pretty much at
operating
capacity.
are you operating at 100?
Pretty much, yeah. Because I guess I always kind of fill my
So
open capacities.
let's play a little game here. We haven't
Yeah.
played any games in this. I'm gonna throw out some hunts for you to add in this year, right now with
Okay.
your current schedule. So right now we have early duck and
Mm-hmm.
dove opener, which is a mainstay. It's like kind of our kickoff for the year.
Yep.
Then we have duck season. We have turkey, archery for deer, which we do get out. Firearm opener. This is all Minnesota
Mm-hmm.
for deer. We
Late
do
season
dab.
pheasant. We've
We
been
do
doing.
dabble in pheasant,
Mm-hmm.
and then we typically have never gone out with our bows in late season. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to put that in there. Okay, that being probably 2 weeks worth of time
Maybe. Maybe.
because you're going to have your
Certainly
couple
several
days of deer.
weekends.
You're going to have a couple days of deer for like weekend one, weekend two. So let's say 4 days there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to have a day or two of turkey.
You're talking about for spring or fall?
Fall. I'm talking only fall right now.
Okay.
So you might do a day or two, like a day in the morning or something like that for turkey. You have now an opportunity to hunt maybe closer to home. So you might have some different, like 2 days ain't crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Full day of early teal, dove, and then duck opener.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like a week and a half, give or take.
Yep. And that's not including Western hunts.
Yeah. So then you introduce Western hunt, which
Mm-hmm.
we're out west for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're up to 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. Give or take. Give or take.
Okay,
Um,
Is there anything else I missed? Do you trap?
Nothing.
Do you fish?
I don't trap. I don't fish as much as I would like to.
Man, fishing's
Um,
fun.
well, I only fish in the summer. So,
Yeah.
um, and then I guess you could throw in my grouse hunts, but we don't need to count those because I'm not taking time
Okay.
off for those.
And
But
most of those hunts are all weekends. So those two and
mm-hmm.
a half weeks, besides the Western hunt, well, the Western hunt does include weekends and then some of the week, but it gobbles up weekends, right? So then you still have
Mm-hmm.
family time, you still have birthdays, Thanksgiving, all that stuff.
Yep.
So now since we set the table, because I'm pretty much on that same exact schedule, I'm gonna throw out some hunts and you tell me if it's over capacity or you could make it work. Alaska moose.
Uh, no, that would be over capacity. Um, that would replace my Western trip. That would be my Western trip
Okay.
essentially. Yeah.
A southern waterfowl hunt, like down to Tennessee or Georgia or something like that. Mississippi.
It would depend on how long it is.
5 days. So
Five days.
you're gonna drive unless you're flying. I'll give it to you if you're flying. I'll give you 4. You fly in,
Okay.
2 days of hunting, and fly back.
The worst part about this is that my wife does listen to this podcast, and so she's gonna listen to this and come at me like,
She will
"What
have
are
her
you talking
day.
about? You can't add any more."
We're no, we're just playing this game. So they will get their day in court. They will be on here.
I mean, as fun as this game is, if I'm being honest, I with one Western hunt per fall and everything else I do, I'm probably at capacity. If I wanted to start doing some of these hunts that you're suggesting, I'd probably have to sacrifice something else that I'm already doing or that I've been historically doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Like
I'm
um
over for sure right now because I've added in 3 hunts I don't normally do. Or sorry, I 3 trips. Let's say 3 trips because I'm taking a bunch of guys out west to do some fly fishing.
yeah.
And when I say a bunch of guys, I'm talking like it's awesome. Like it looks like 45, maybe 50 guys on 2 different trips.
Oh, I was gonna say over 2 trips. I was like, over one trip? Holy
No,
smokes!
it's
There's not
yeah,
enough boats for that.
it's 20 plus on each trip uh
Okay.
so far, and you should definitely join that. But you'll have to feel bad about that when you don't join it yourself, because I'll be out there fly fishing. And then I randomly received a really nice invite to do some South Dakota hunting, which I did try to get you on. It is my fault. I want to publicly claim that. I should have been a better friend and given the little extra detail for the cutoff for the draw, but I'll go to South
Well,
Dakota and for the first time. And I am excited because I've never done it. I've never
yeah,
done any like South Dakota, North Dakota waterfowl hunting. I've always heard about it, heard stories. Um,
you're gonna have a
my
super
wife,
fun
my
hunt.
wife's an angel. My wife's an angel because I floated it to her and she's like, just remember you have a family, which is like
Yep.
she wasn't digging. She was being very honest. Just like just remember you have a family. It's a lot.
Hmm.
So
It is.
mhm.
Shout out to the wives because, especially for us generalist hunters that have a very packed hunting schedule in the fall, the wives take the brunt of it. We are going to have the wives on the podcast. Um, we've talked about that. The wives have been clamoring for it. So we will have wives on the podcast and talking a little bit about this kind of stuff with when it comes to balancing family life and what it's like to be a hunting wife and that kind of stuff. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So with all that, let's like to bring it back full circle to the generalist specialist space.
Yep.
Those uh all of those hunts that are new, I'm definitely a generalist because I'm going with people who are way more educated on the area, way more educated on the species.
Hmm.
They're setting us up for success. They're putting me on the fish. They're putting me on the birds, it, which might have some pheasant in there too.
Sure.
Um, and they got dogs and stuff, and I don't have that. So I am being the mentoree in those scenarios, which I love. I love that. I love just going around, going on stuff, and being part of the team. Now, for like the dove and early teal and the deer opener, those hunts lean way more to specialists because we're going in areas that we know from a topography standpoint, from like it's private land.
Hmm. Definitely.
We've hunted it for years, and we kind of know the
Yep.
patterning.
I think
Typically,
that's I think that's the unsaid thing about this generalist versus specialist conversation is that you might be a generalist in the fact that you hunt a bunch of different stuff, but you can still be a specialist within that space because of the area you hunt. You might be a specialist in your area, and so you might be a specialist in your duck hunting area. Then if you were to go somewhere else, you can maybe apply, some of the stuff about where you hunt to this other place. But because you don't know exactly how the ducks use the area, then you might be more on the generalist side of things. You don't have the experience in that space because you really just know the main area you hunt. So I would definitely agree that, especially in the areas we whitetail hunt, for example, since we are on private land, we're specialists on the whitetail in our area.
mhm.
But you take us and plop us in, you said Tennessee earlier, you plop us in Tennessee and we're hunting public land. I have,
Like we'll be able to apply some general principles
yeah.
to be position ourselves for a greater amount of success.
Hmm.
But unless you're like a world class duck caller and you got your whole duck set up and and you're guiding, you know, those guys I can imagine go into just about any situation, even from like a back timber, knee high water type hunt down
Hmm.
south to like open water, like seawater. That might be where there's a little bit of a difference
That's a different
to
space for sure.
space. So
Yeah.
while they may, because they're not going to use those calls, right?
Hmm.
Those ducks are going to sound different than back timber ducks that are, coming in by the hundreds
Yeah, coastal
from,
ducks are probably going to be a little different than your central or
yep,
Mississippi flyway ducks.
yep.
But
But
um
those guys, you would agree that those guys, when they do it all day long and like they're guiding, they could step into those situations and bring way more confidence to even their shot placement, even if they had to learn a new call, they'd probably have a better understanding of how to like roll the reads or different things like that
Yeah,
than
well,
the guy
there's
that like I can't call mostly for anything, but I can shoot. I can make up for it with shooting. So
we all have our strengths, Chris. Calling is not yours, but
I
there's still
just don't.
time. There's
I
still
don't spend.
time.
I don't spend any time practicing. But so do
Um,
you? Would you agree with the premise that if you can step into another scenario where you are not like the full mentee, but you're a peer, that's where you're a specialist, like that specialty translates? Or because if we bring people into our space, we are definitely a specialist because we can outfit them from a gear standpoint. We can walk them through proper shooting, and leading the bird, or here's how you. Well, I can't. You can say here's how you call, and you can kind of walk them through
mhm.
the calls.
I mean, I think there are hunting skills that kind of no matter what you're hunting, there are just hunting skills. Some people might call it like woodsmanship that translate across all different types of experiences, right? But yeah, like if you're a specialist in one area and going to do something else, you might be better equipped than just regular guy that jumps around different pieces of public land all the time. you know but he's going to have some advantages too because he's hunting harder to hunt places in general, just because private land is a little easier, less pressure, that kind of stuff. So I don't know, it's really hard to say or have a definition of when someone moves from being a generalist to a specialist. I guess my whole thought on the for the topic at hand was just like, are you hunting like one or two things and getting super good at that, or are you hunting a bunch of different stuff and you're
We
like
should totally create.
decent at
We should
it?
totally create a. What are those things that colleges are rolling out now? They have like the programs where you take so many hours and you get certified, and
Oh,
we should do
certificates.
we should do a totally meaningless certificate for a generalist and hunt
Yeah,
and
we
a
should.
specialist for ready set hunt. Be like you've been awarded or you've qualified because
You're a mule deer specialist.
you've listened to 30 minutes of ready set hunt. You're now a generalist. It means
uh
absolutely nothing.
yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the what might be pros and cons of being a generalist versus a specialist. I think there's if you're getting into the hunting space and you're kind of bouncing around the idea of, do I just focus on one thing for a while and get really good at it, or do I just try everything I can? Let's talk about maybe some of the pros and cons of making a decision like that, or pursuing something like that, just because there are some definite things you need to think about that maybe don't come to mind immediately when you're getting into hunting. Um,
Yeah. What do you
so
think?
like from a gear perspective, for example,
Ooh,
um,
you're spending fraction of the dollars,
if you're a
but
specialist,
not at all. But not at all.
well, I mean, if you're a
If you're a
generalist,
duck specialist, you probably have land. Maybe
maybe,
you
maybe,
probably
probably
have
not.
you probably have a crap ton of decoys.
Yep.
You probably have invested in premium duck calls.
Waterfowlers are a different breed.
You
Let's be
probably have
honest.
really cool, awesome, epic shotguns.
Waterfowlers are a different breed. Just for the amount of gear that you need to be like a good dedicated waterfowler, especially if you're doing field hunting and stuff, like, or even late season divers, because you need way more decoys than if you're just doing like puddle ducks like mallards and stuff. It's
When
just
you're throwing that out there like way more gear or decoys, you're speaking it in terms of having tools to increase your success rate. You're not
yes.
saying like you can't do it and be you
It's
can't.
yeah.
There are guys out there that can hunt probably with like 10 decoys. And if you're in the right spot and you have the right call down, you might get them all day long, but
I mean,
that's not everywhere.
that's more or less what we, yeah, and it's going to be location dependent, but that's more or less what we do. Like we don't have giant decoy spreads. We might have 2 dozen decoys out tops. Tops, like
Yeah, we need more.
always need more decoys, but you need
Let's do a
space.
Facebook special.
You need
Let's
space
get
to
on Facebook. I'm gonna get on Facebook Market right now. Let me see here.
um, no, but I mean, one of the benefits of being a specialist is that you have the gear for your specialty, and it can be a little less expensive because if you're a generalist, say you hunt ducks, you hunt geese, you hunt uh, whitetails in a tree stand, and you also let's say you like to hunt bears in the fall and you like to bait bears, for example. That's a lot of gear. Maybe some of that gear could cross over, like a tree stand could cross over for fall black bear and whitetail,
You could use a tree
but
stand for duck hunting.
uh, we you could.
You put it's just above the water line. If you're knee high water, get that tree stand up there. You're out of the water. I've seen it.
But I mean, like the amount of gear that you need if you're gonna do all this different stuff. Like for me, I hunt deer, I hunt ducks, I hunt turkeys, I hunt geese, which kind of cross over with duck, but geese need their own decoys. I hunt pheasants, I hunt grouse, and then I go out west and I hunt elk and mule deer and antelope and spring black bear and all this stuff. And again, some of it crosses over, but some of it is like highly specialized stuff.
Well,
The amount of
we got our
stuff that I have,
yeah, we there's like it's the layering system. It's uh you're doing the temperature thing. There's different gear you're not going to bring for certain type of hunts. Like I don't even need my SIG binos for deer hunting in Minnesota. I just don't need them.
right,
I can bring my very lightweight,
tiny little binos.
tiny whatever they are, zeros by 42s or whatever. And those are perfectly fine.
hmm
I had a thought and I can't remember what it was, but
Darn it. Yeah, so I guess that's one of the advantages to being a specialist is um, aside from waterfowl, because again, different
oh,
breed of hunter right there. Oh,
I know what it
he's
was.
got it. He's got it,
So it's
folks.
the generalist versus specialist, like the pros. We were talking about the pros and cons.
hmm
I would say the pros to being a specialist is that person, that individual knows what they like from the standpoint of maybe having dabbled in some other things or never having dabbled in anything else, and they're honed in, they're like locked in, they've
hmm
been probably taught, mentored in a certain way. Now I'm speaking from a proficiency standpoint. We're all assuming on this podcast that this person that we're speaking about is proficient. We're not just talking about the guy that goes out every single year and only duck hunts and shoots like a duck or two. That's not what
hmm
we're talking about. We're talking about
Again, that
someone
would be that
who's,
week. That would be that weekend warrior label there.
yeah, the person who's invested in it doesn't have to be super top end expensive gear, but they've invested in the knowledge of what they need to be successful. Because you can pick up older decoys and they're going to do a great job for you if you know how to set them up.
hmm
You're in the right spot as far as like setup for into the wind. You can roll with a cheap call, and you can definitely get away with cheap calls. 100%.
Yep.
Um, Sound travels funny. And if you just hear some quack quacks, uh,
You
unless they're
probably just
right,
infuriated a bunch of people who have really expensive calls with that statement. But I
no,
don't completely
you have to
disagree
let me
with you.
finish my thought though. You
Oh,
also
okay.
have the guys when that are those bomb.com callers, and they can actually reach out almost with sound, and they can kind of lasso those geese or ducks going by. But I think where it really comes into play is when the birds are right on top of you, when the birds are circling and they're trying to figure out, oh, should I come in here? Because then your crap calling is not gonna cut it.
hmm
Like it's probably gonna be a turn off more than anything. Like you
Yeah.
don't want me calling. You want Peter calling when they're practically on top of us, or my uncle Kevin.
hmm
So or some of those refuge guys.
Yeah.
Caleb, we're gonna give you a shout out right now because you
Shout out to
are
Caleb, one of the
you'll
best
never
callers I've
listen to
ever
this
heard.
probably, but you are unbelievable.
Maybe he will.
Maybe he will.
Maybe he will.
But generalist wise, generalists like me and you, in order to stay generalists, you have to have success once in a while and you have to kind of know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're really just throwing dollars away.
Well, and
Right? Are you just throwing
yeah,
dollars away to tags? You're just throwing dollars away on You don't know what kind of gear you're supposed to buy, so you're just kind of buying some stuff. You've
Well, you're
never done
gonna you're
research. You
gonna
don't have any buddies that have any knowledge on, like, hey, Peter, you probably shouldn't wear that out here. Why? Because it's going to hold all of your body moisture. It's actually a
we're talking about
emergency.
cotton, people. We're
It's
talking about
actually
cotton.
an emergency blanket from your survival kit, but it keeps me warm. Yeah, but you know,
Yeah. Well, and I think unintentionally we've made it seem like generalists aren't good at hunting. You know what I mean?
which
Like
they
oh,
totally can be.
they totally can be. And everyone eats tag soup, even people who are specialists and like that they have their one thing. Everyone eats
Remy
tag soup
Warren, I'm giving
sometimes.
you a question right now. Do you eat tag soup? Like when you get a tag, from what I see in your content and your hunts, of which the community admires, I would say for the most part, because I believe my knowledge is correct. He started out solo hunting, and then how he kind of came to prominence. And it's like, dude, this guy's on the side of the mountain.
He self films everything.
Yeah,
Solo
and
hunter. Yeah.
that in itself is incredible, and it's
Hmm.
because you're fidgeting with the camera all the time. But Remy, I'm asking you, what is your success rate in your tag space of applications? Like when you land a tag, are you coming out over 50%? Because
Sure.
my assumption is you are by the content I see.
By the content, yeah. Actually, I'm really glad you brought this up because I think a really key difference between generalists and specialists to me, from the few that I know and from, content that you can absorb on YouTube or whatever, specialists to me seem to be a lot more willing to eat tag soup if they don't see the class of animal that they're hunting for. Like
Say
they
that
would
again.
specialists, it seems that specialists in general are more willing to eat tag soup if they don't find the class of animal they're looking for.
Oh,
Like
like they would have an opportunity, but they would just not pull the trigger.
there's not going to pull the trigger because the buck isn't big enough, and they know that that means that they're not going to fill a tag that season because let's say it's the end of their trip or whatever, and they're not going to be able to
Mm-hmm.
get back out for the season. To me, specialists seem more okay with eating tag soup than taking an animal that they're not excited about. Because with for specialists, it's not about filling the tag, it's about getting the right type of animal, or the animal that their goal is.
I'd agree to that.
Whereas a generalist like us, we are more so like, obviously we want to shoot a big deer too, and obviously we want to get a
Well,
bag limit of ducks,
I don't
and
know.
so
Are specialists not? No, because I would say Remy's a specialist and he's after the meat. I would say that guys that go out there, they might be on to, they're looking for the big trophy, right? They're looking for
hmm
that big class deer or elk.
hmm
But if they have any ounce of like desire to put meat in their fridge, they are looking to utilize whatever tags they have. So they, if they don't have, they might have a cow tag, they might have another tag in a different state, and maybe they don't shoot the classroom, but they can't shoot what's in front of them. But
yeah. Well, I guess I'm
right?
not saying that specialists don't shoot something that isn't their goal, but I'm saying, to me it seems that they're much more likely to pass on something, even if that means they're not going to fill that tag. Maybe they have a tag in a different state. Maybe they do. And I'm not saying they're not after meat. I'm just saying, like, say they're in a bull only unit, and so they can't shoot a cow, and it's an area that maybe they'll be able to come back and hunt the next year. And they see a bull they really like that they want to shoot. They get to the last day of the hunt. Another bull presents an opportunity, but it's not the bull. I feel like a specialist is a lot more likely to pass up even a nice bull to because it's not the bull he was
100%.
after.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. Whereas a generalist, like, yeah, I'd like to shoot the biggest bull I can, but if a decent bull steps out and I have a good shot opportunity, I'm probably taking it because I'm a generalist. Like,
But
the
there,
meat is more important to me than the horns, although I like the horns too, but the meat's
but
more important to
we
me.
are also on the western, in the Montana western space. We are novice.
Yes, absolutely.
So we don't have a benchmark or a class of which we've talked about it, right? Because I'm more prone not to shoot the smaller side. Not that you're like gonna let bullets fly. That's not what I'm insinuating. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm like really after the 6x6. Like
Mhm.
that's what I want to shoot every time. If it is a 3x3, 4x4, or something like that, and it's really young, and I have that opportunity, I'm just don't know. Like when we were out mule deer hunting, and we were in Paradise. No, it wasn't Paradise Valley. When we were in Jurassic Park, I can say that because no one knows where this is. Um, we saw that older muley, remember, and he was what 70 yards from me, and
Mhm.
we were following him for a while. We still had some days left, but I we had seen he was not impressive at all,
Mhm.
and he would put meat in the fridge, and I didn't pull the trigger. We kept
Yep,
going, and I
and
didn't. We left, and I had no tag, or I had
yep.
my tag still. It didn't take out. So
See, to me, that's a specialist move in general. But I don't blame you
so we're
because we had
back.
because
We're back
I
because I
don't
am a
I don't
specialist.
I don't blame you though because we did have several days left. I guess my argument is coming from if you're on the last day of your hunt or like the last 2 days of your hunt, obviously your standards start to dip down a little
Because you're
bit.
thinking about putting meat in the fridge.
Yep. I feel like a specialist is less prone to that type of thinking.
Yes, and the key is less prone.
Yes, but
Maybe,
maybe,
maybe.
maybe. Um, anyway, so let's see. Go back to some more pros and cons of specialist versus generalist. Um, I guess we were talking about success rate. Let's talk about flexibility. Obviously, when I say flexibility, I also mean like season length and hunts you're able to do.
Ooh, I think specialists are way more flexible.
I could see that in like
I
different
would say
ways.
generalists don't have the resolve to change up their strategy often. They don't have the extra time. By nature, generalists are have a block of time to get out and try to be successful.
Hmm.
Specialists are maximizing time and setting time aside beyond the generalist's timeline, right? Because a generalist or a weekend warrior, if we really go dumb it down to that, which I'm in that camp in a handful of different uh, game. But if you like only hunt mourning doves throughout the country, you've plotted your whole hunting season around that. So you're going to be more successful than me,
Right.
or
Yeah.
turkey, or I've seen guys
Hmm.
shoot multiple turkeys, many turkeys,
Hmm.
because there's the tag limit is way higher. But Minnesota only has the one, right? You can only shoot your one turkey.
Well, you get your one spring turkey, and then you get your one fall turkey. So you can take two a year.
Are there any
Which
bag limits around the country for waterfowl? Like, what's the highest limit,
well,
or
I
is that
know
nationally regulated?
it's federally regulated. So um, there are different bag limits for different types of ducks, and I think that can, if I remember correctly, that can be different state by state, just depending on what ducks you have in your area and whatnot. But bag limit is federally mandated since it's a migratory bird.
I'm looking it up.
Good. Let's do some fact checking here. Um, but yeah, I would agree with you that
California, 7.
7 in California, huh?
Geese up to 30 per day,
Wow.
which includes up to 20 white geese and 10 dark geese.
That must mean they have a bit of a goose problem out
Now this is
in.
I'm googly bobbling this for everyone, so please do your own research. Do not take this as substantive advice or anything. I'm literally reading from from finding these Google posts, so they could be totally
AI
not true.
overviews, right?
Yeah,
Read your regulations, people. You need to read your regulation book for your source of bag limits for whatever it is you're hunting. Do not use AI overview because if you take too many animals in your bag limit, and then a warden checks you and you say,
but Warden,
"Well,
Warden, I was on Google.
yeah, Google AI told me that I could take 50 deer."
Son, here's the handbook. Did you read it?
Google AI did. Oh man. No, yeah, I would say I would agree with you that that a specialist can be more flexible in terms of hunting that one thing, but a generalist gets to be
Ooh,
more flexible in the fact that they get to hunt different things.
okay. So we can't speak for the entire community.
No,
Um,
we can speak from our perspective and our
from your
experience.
perspective and the conversations you've had, the hunters you've hunted with, what would your perception be? And here's the question: do you think the hunter would rather be a generalist, or would they rather be a specialist by default? Like, if they
Ooh,
could go a direction, would they
well,
want to be like just have the most kick butt waterfowl setup and experience? Because that happens, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if the average person starting out, if they could like hunt everything, or if they could really just focus and become an expert or specialist on something. Which way do you think it would lean?
oh man, that's I feel like that's almost unanswerable. Um,
So, what is it for you? If you could lean one way, and
I,
then what is success for a generalist? Because as specialist, I think it's easier to find success. They're an expert, and they constantly or consistently bring in the bag limit,
yeah,
tag out. They know the ins and outs, so when they're putting in dollars, they're getting a return.
yeah. Um, I can answer.
Generalists maybe don't.
I can answer for myself. As a generalist, to me, success looks like a full freezer. Doesn't necessarily matter what that freezer full of meat consists of, but to me, success is a full freezer.
Beaver,
Sure, I've heard beaver's great. I haven't eaten it, but I've heard it's really
uh,
good.
alligator.
Heard,
We're back to Florida.
yes, yes, we got to get down
I
there.
think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want a good mixture, which is why I'm a generalist because, like, listen, I love venison, but it's also nice to have some turkey in the freezer. It's nice to have some grouse. It's just it's nice to have different types of meat in the freezer. Not that I don't get sick of venison, but it's just nice to have some variety, which is one of the reasons I am a generalist because I could just quit everything and just spend all my time hunting whitetail, and it'd probably be I'd probably still have a ton of fun doing it. I'd still be super passionate about it, but I am a person who just likes the variety of experiences and of meat. Um, so when you said earlier, I think you asked me earlier if like if I could be a specialist, would I? I don't know if I would trade it. I honestly don't. I just think it's I think being a generalist is more fun. I don't know, and maybe that's just very personality driven, but um, because all the hunts that I do any given fall, I look forward to every single one of them. I get excited for every single one of them. Like one of my favorite hunts of the
Yeah.
year is a hunt that I do once, one evening. That it's our dove hunt. We do it every year, and it literally lasts like 3 hours, and I don't hunt dove again until the next year. But it's one of the things I look forward to most every fall.
Yeah, it might. To be honest, it might be the most fun we have.
It's got to be up there for sure.
I guess it's a fun in a certain way.
Yes, they're all different.
It's not a lot of time. It's fast action.
Hmm.
The dove is delicious to eat.
Yep.
So
And it's just fun time together. You don't have to be quiet.
it's
You're
super team oriented.
hmm
It's because we're calling it out. It's like, hey, come one coming, two coming behind you, or
6 o'clock.
3 o'clock low. Like it is. It's fun.
It's just a blast. But um, yeah, I mean, if you're the kind of person that you want to focus on one thing, power to you. It's gonna you're gonna have advantages in doing that, and maybe you're wanting to get into hunting because you have seen videos of mule deer hunting and it just like has captivated you. Nothing else really interests you. You're like, I could care less about stupid ducks. I could care less about turkeys gobbling in the spring. Mule deer is your thing, dude. That's awesome. Power to you. Do everything you can to become the best mule deer hunter you can. But if there is just a little bit of interest in something else, don't push that down, because we live in a really amazing place that gives us a lot of different opportunities. And it is an amazing gift that we have to be able to do those things. So I always encourage people, like, if you're interested in something, just try it once. You know, borrow gear from your buddy that does it. If you know someone who's a duck hunter and you want to go out, try it once. Maybe it's not your cup of tea, maybe you won't like it, but like, just try it.
Mhm.
And then start saving money if you really do like it. And start saving up that PTO. Anything else you want to talk about on this topic, Chris?
I don't think so. I'm done.
Yeah, we,
I,
he's
I
done.
just want to like start randomly talking. So that would be not. We could have the next episode could just be random episode.
Random thoughts.
Random
Yeah,
thoughts with
that might
Chris.
be good. Anyway,
This is the part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song. If none of you know what that is, it's Veggie Tales, and I grew up with it. It's awesome.
yeah. Anyway, if you enjoy what you're hearing, make sure you give us a 5-star rating on whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave a review, a written review. That's huge for us. That it does stuff to the algorithm that gets us out there more. You know, we want to have a larger audience, talking to more people, creating more conversations in the hunting space, especially for you beginners out there, or people who are just interested in what hunting is all about. Tell your friends, share with a family member, all of that kind of stuff. We really appreciate it, you guys. If you have questions or topics that you want us to cover, you can comment on any of our social media posts, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. You can also shoot us an email to readysethuntpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to answer any questions. We'd love to do a Q&A episode. However, we can't do a Q&A episode if there aren't any Q's to A. So, anyway, Chris, do you want to sign off for us?
Live free.
Die hard.
Now you guys have a great time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.